Greetings and welcome. My name is Mike Bankhead. I am your host. I am a bass player and songwriter from the Gem City, Dayton, Ohio. As promised earlier this week, I am going international again. My guest on this episode is Marcelo, who is a Brazilian bass player. I'm just happy to talk to another bass player because, I play bass. So today on the You Could Be My Aramis podcast, you're going to learn a lot about what it's like to be a professional working musician in New York, about creativity, about how much passion Marcelo has for music. I think you'll enjoy this one. Let's get to it. Hey there, Marcelo. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy professional musician schedule to have a chat with me. So we have something in common. We both play bass.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you the question that people always used to ask me, because it's nice to turn the tables on somebody. Mm-hmm. Why did you pick the bass?
Yes. So it's actually a pretty cool story. So I actually had very basic, not even piano, but keyboard lessons when I was 7, 8. My parents, they bought me one of those kids keyboard, and they actually just hired a teacher to teach me on that thing, which was super awkward now that I'm older and I think about it, but it was quite fun. I didn't really get so into it. I was never really so into practicing or enjoying it, and also not coming from music family. I never really care about so much music in general until I got into high school. And, there was all the rebel era of being a teenager. I want to do rock and roll, I want to do all this crazy stuff, and I started getting very into rock. And as you can imagine, I got very into Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I was like, wow, Flea is just too cool. He was really the big guy that made me oh, I really love the bass. I'm super into it. But so that was around when I was 15. But I told my parents, oh, can I get a bass for Christmas or something? Do you think we can learn it? And then my parents said, nobody cares about the bass. We can get you a guitar, and they bought me a guitar actually. Oh, yeah. Wow. No, but they didn't really know. They don't understand. No, it's all good. But they bought me a guitar. They paid me for my lessons for a full year of guitar, and I enjoy. It was pretty fun. But after a year, I was like, yeah, I really want to try the bass because it's so cool. And especially because I had some friends that had an actual bass. When you play the bass for the first time, especially after playing guitar, it's like, wow, so good. Anyway, after 1 year, when I was almost 16, they gave me a bass as a gift, and I was hooked. And that's it. That's my story.
Excellent. And yes. You are from Brazil.
Yes.
But you studied at Berkeley. So what made you take the decision to not study music in Brazil, but come to the United States?
Well, so first thing, I was meant, I guess meant is a weird word, but the plan when I was graduating high school in Brazil was I was going to do aerospatial engineer, right? I was going to do engineering, and I got approved. I did the SATs, the Brazilian SATs, everything. I got into college, and, a couple months before the lessons would start, I was like, I can't do it. I can't handle it. I really don't want to do it. I really want to try to do music. I hate engineer. I hate this kind of stuff. I was like, and then my parents were super supportive. They're really nice. They said, yeah, no worries. We're here to support you. We're gonna make you work. But they're like, but if you want to do this, make sure to get an education. You don't just to be not getting an education. So we were looking to college. We got a bunch of colleges, and at the end we saw Berkeley is really one of the top colleges of the planet, and it's amazing. And actually, I did do Brazilian music college for 2 years because I could, the Berkeley tuition very expensive. So we saw that there is this program called Being School program, which is an exchange school program. So I actually ended up doing 2 years of music college in Brazil, in this college called Souza Lima, Faculdade Souza Lima, that's the name. And basically I did a bunch of credits. I did basically my whole first 4 semesters in Brazil, and I transferred to Berkeley to finish. So that's how it went for that part.
So nowadays, from looking at your website, it seems like you spend a lot of time in the jazz genre. Mm-hmm. Is that your favorite at the moment?
Yeah, as I get older, and as I guess music evolves, jazz becomes such a huge umbrella for so many things. And coming fresh out of college, I graduated 2017. I was really into the straight ahead genre, right? Like I play upright. That's what I studied really in college. I barely touched my electric bass when I was in college, and I just said upright bass, straight ahead jazz. I want to swing. I want to play all that stuff. And I moved to New York. Want to be a swing player, all that stuff. And as I get older, I was like, I'm not feeling this to be my voice so much. I start to get into other musicians. I listen to other groups, and I really start to get reconnected with the electric bass, which is what I really started with, right? And as the year passes by, I kind of always maintain the idea of jazz in general being my main style, but not only straight ahead. I always love fusion. And I also like, coming from Brazil, there's a lot of chance to Brazilian jazz in a way, like Latin jazz, not specific Latin jazz, but like really just Brazilian music, which is, in its way, like a jazz genre almost. And as the years progressed, I ended up being much more focused to the point that basically stopping playing upright almost to just play electric bass on much more like fusion music. I like to call my genre of my music like progressive jazz. There's a lot of other bands that have that genre also as themselves. But yes, I would say, any kind of like music that has space for improvisation, I would consider it to be jazz in a way. And I do love that kind of music a lot.
When I think of Brazilian music, obviously I think of samba because I think everyone is. When people think about Brazilian music, that's the one that's probably
yes, of course, yes.
And since you grew up with samba, I'm sure you take that with you. You carry that with you as you make music today. How does that influence the kind of improvisation that you do?
Yes, so coming from Brazil, I lived my first like 19, 20 years of my life in Brazil, and you grow up with Brazilian music, right? There's so many different kinds of music, but my parents were never really big into music per se. I never really had a strong presence of music until I got late on my teenager years. My mom actually, she's the one that was really into rock actually. So I actually grew up a lot listening to rock music, American music, and also of course, but being in Brazil, you always listen to so much Brazilian music, and you ended up absorbing the rhythms, right? I think that's the thing that stick with me the most. Not only samba, right? You listen like Baião, you listen to Partido Alpe, you listen to all the rhythms from the Northeast. Because Brazil is such a huge country, there's so many different kinds of rhythms. And not only that, we are also surrounded by so many other South American countries, and they all have their own rhythms. So you kind of ended up listening to some of that at a certain extent. But that's my point, is that the rhythm of samba, the rhythm of the bass drum on samba, the rhythm of like the percussion instruments, all those things, they stay with you. And I can feel, when I write music sometimes, not every time, but sometimes I can feel they just manifest in the composition, and a lot of the times also manifest in improvisation. I love to really sometimes play bass more like a drummer, right? Just like 2-3 notes and just play with the rhythm, just play with the way the figure is being played, where it's located in the beat. So that part stay a lot with me.
This is a good segue because you mentioned composition, and before I hit the record button, I mentioned I was on your Bandcamp page. You released an album called Looking Ahead and an album called Boundless, both in 2020, and Night Tales this year. So
yes,
for folks that want to kind of discover your original compositions, how would you describe the kind of music that you usually compose?
Yeah, so for my this last 3 albums, it was quite a journey to really finding out what I want to do more, what I want to have as a voice, right? What is my voice per se? If you look at the first one, and in Bandcamp, it shows 2020, I believe. It's just because I didn't know what Bandcamp was before then, but I actually came out in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So that one is my very first album, the Looking Ahead, right? And if you listen to it, it's like full on like Brazilian music with some straight ahead jazz, swinging, playing the upright bass, and it's pretty nice. It was my first experience writing, and I was very satisfied with it. But I always felt like it's missing a lot of things that they weren't there yet. So I would say Boundless is where I kind of like found. I can't say like I found my voice, because I find that to be hard to say, right? It's like such a big statement, but I did find the direction that I want to have my voice towards you, and a lot of it's really about, in a way, the improvisation. I love to keep the improvisation aspect. So I do have the compositions that I write, but there's always space for the musicians to take a solo and improvise and create something. But a lot of it really is trying to place the electric bass as kind of like this more harmonic instrument. I love to play chords. My bass, actually, my main bass is a 5-string, but I changed the low B string for the high C string. So it's almost like a 6 strings without the low B, because it gives me more space to do chords. And I just love that sound so much. I'm really in love with it. And that's kind of like what I focus, kind of featuring the bass. Also, playing melodies, playing solos, of course. But the harmonic part, I find it to be my favorite part, and that was much more explored on the last album, Night Tales. And Night Tales also was my first chance to write some lyrics, to have a singer, so that was very fun. Also, it's something I've been leaning a lot towards the next project, like more singing music, I would say. Just trying to mix all the things that I like. I'm trying to stop just trying to worrying about if this is going to sound good or bad, or if people are going to enjoy it. Just write really, I really love this stuff, and whatever comes out of it, I'm happy with it.
By the next project, well, so this is the funny thing. Maxime told me what it's called.
Yeah.
His episode is going to air after yours. So I don't know if you want me to mention it on this. I guess we could talk about it, and then if it's not out by then, I could edit this out of the conversation. But Snack.
Snack, yes. That's the next thing coming out, I think.
So when you write lyrics, since you're bilingual, do you usually write in Portuguese or in English?
I mean, I do like Portuguese, and I think to create really lyrics in Portuguese, I should, I should have a different project for that. I don't feel it comes out so natural for this kind of music, at least. I just really enjoy writing in English, especially living here for so long, right? I've been here now for almost 10 years. I kind of like, stop thinking so much in Portuguese, because 99% of my day I'm doing English. I speak Portuguese with my parents maybe like a couple times a week when I call them. And most of the people that I know are international here, they speak in English with me. So I find it more natural nowadays to write stuff in English.
So when you sit down to compose, what's the first tool that you reach for?
For composing, so I kind of split into two things. I either like have an idea that I just have an idea in my head, right? A lot of the times it happens in the shower, like the cliche shower idea, or whatever, just happening spontaneously, right? And I just open my phone and I record it with the guitar. I do a good amount, actually, so then I can come back for those ideas. That's how I like to compose the most, definitely. But the other half of the time, I would say I just sit on with my bass. I'm practicing my bass, like normally practicing it, and then something comes out, and I start to really like develop in the bass itself. And a lot of songs that I have, I just wrote the whole thing on the bass. I tend to stay away from the piano. I used to do that, especially my first album. It was written the whole thing on the piano, and I just, as I said, like my voice is much more leaning towards strings. Guitar and bass really is what I like the most in this world, like when it comes to music. So I try to write it either in the bass or the guitar. Sometimes after developing the idea, recording on the iPhone, I come back to it like 1 month or 2 months later, and I just develop from there.
Yeah, it's so nice to have a bass player on, because I feel like you're obviously a lot more accomplished than me, but I feel like you'll understand where I'm coming from. I never learned to play guitar, so that's the advantage that you have, right? You said that you're comfortable playing chords. I mean, obviously, I think chords on a bass sound really cool.
It'd be true.
I'm not good at transitioning between one chord to the next. And since I make rock and roll, I generally compose on a piano, because I find that when I compose on a bass, it confuses the guitarists I pay to come. Do you have any challenges when you compose a thing on bass and bring it to your guitarist and your keyboardist to get them to understand what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so a lot of times, especially for the 5-string, the high C bass that I have, the voicings is the biggest problem, right? Because first of all, missing, if we compare to the electric guitar, right, the guitar B string which is their second string, becomes my C string. So I'm tuning different, and I'm missing the high string also. So I don't have that extra color to add to my chords, right?
Yep.
So the biggest issue that I had with the guitar player was just try to really explain the voicing that I have, because a lot of times I write chord symbols, right? And that's something I've been changing lately. I've been learning to stop writing only the chord symbols and just write straight up the whole voicing of the chord. But I say something, for example, like a B minor 7 with an 11, right? That's actually happened on one of the songs. The guitar player, there's a thousand ways to play that chord. Like there's so many different voices to be done, but I just want this one specific voicing with the open E string, and I just have to explain, do like this. And sometimes it's something that feels weird. It's not something that is like common on the guitar, but on the bass, it just feels okay. It feels good. Because the bass doesn't really have a lot of things out there. It's been starting a lot since the last 10 years with bass players like Yannick Guzalda, even players like Hayden Ferrell, like those guys. They've been doing a lot of chords in the bass, but it's not something that it's so common knowledge, right? Bass chord. There's no books and books about it, right? Guitar has so many books about voicings. So a lot of the things that happen on the bass, they are new, and there's a lot of place to explore, and it's always going to be kind of incomplete, right? Because we have to deal with the first of all missing some notes, and the big problem that I find, which is the keys to compose, because certain keys you're going to have chords that are too muddy. You're going to be so low that you play like a fifth or like a fourth, and it just sounds like a crazy sound, like it's so muddy you can't tell what's going on. So that was the biggest challenge, I think, just voicing.
Who are some of your favorite bass players these days that you recommend that I listen to? And I ask this because as a rock and roll guy, obviously everyone knows who Victor Wooten is because he's probably the best living bass player. And he's not doing the same. We're not even in the same universe, but I know who he is, even though he's a jazz guy. But since I'm used to listening to rock and roll, I don't really know some of the best bassists in other genres. Who would you recommend I check out?
Well, I'll start with some Brazilian bass players that I really, really dig. So the first one is this guy called Felipe Moreno. So Felipe with a bunch of I's, Filipe, and then Moreno is like Moreno. He's amazing. I think I can't remember so well, but I think I studied with him back in the Brazilian college when he was super young. We were both very young, and he's just became like a superstar in Brazil. An amazing bass player. He plays 6 strings, but he has a acoustic bass guitar, right? So that's what he plays with, a 6 strings one that he plays chords in. It's basically a guitar an octave lower. It's really amazing. And he's one of my favorite players, I think. I take a lot of inspiration from him. And another one that I like a lot is called Frederico Eliodoro. It's a little really weird name to spell, but I believe it's Frederico, and Eliodoro is Heliodoro, if I'm not mistaken. But he's
like Elio from Helium and
yes,
Gold, right? So.
I believe so. Yeah. So he is a 4-string bass player, which is different, stuff that I do. But he's a very articulate player. I really enjoy his music. Also, I think that's the thing that gets me the most into his music, into his sound, because he's such an amazing composer. He's probably one of my favorite Brazilian composers, actually. So he's amazing. And then for the international side, besides Brazil, one guy that I try to stay away from his music as much as I can, because really is the music that I identify with a lot, and it's kind of one of the reasons that I changed my 5-string bass to a high C instead of the low B, which is Yannick Guzalda, right? Is the guy that I was saying before. His name is very complicated, but I believe it's Janek, and then his last name is Gwizdala, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like that. But he's an amazing bass player. I think I believe he's located in LA right now, and I love his music. But as I said, I love the music so much, I love his playing so much that I haven't been listening to him for years. I just told myself I can't do this because I'm going to end up sounding like him, and I want to just develop my own thing. So I haven't heard his projects in a long time. I bet it's amazing, but I completely secluded myself from his music. And the other guy, which I think is every current bass player, like jazz electric bass player, current hero, in the same level that I would say Jaco Pastorius is, for the last like 30 years or 30, 40 years, is Hadrian Ferrad, right? So Hadrian Ferrad, the French player, located in LA also now. It's probably the guy that changed the most on the bass after Jaco. Is the guy that completely just changed everything. Like everybody wants to try to sound like Hadrian, and I do love his music. I love his playing. He's probably the most virtuoso bass player that in a way ever existed. Like he plays amazing. And I just got to learn a lot of vocabulary from him. Like he plays like a horn, but sometimes even better. So I learned a lot from him. And there's so many more bass players. Like there's so many, but those are my top four. Because I think those when I think like players that change and like mold me, those are the top four, like for sure.
That's awesome. Obrigado. Thank you. And that's
no worries.
I can go to school. I can go to basis. I've never studied in a genre I don't really play, but there's the more you listen to, there's always something that you can learn.
Yes.
So all the people who are not music nerds probably just completely tuned out the last 3 minutes. When you're writing, how do you know when your composition is done? Like, how do you know when you're finished?
Oh, yeah. That is very hard because, I mean, a lot of the times, especially after going to the studio and recording the song, because, at least for me, I write the songs and then we head to the studio right away. Like, everything happens very fast because I know if I don't do it, I will never do it. I just have to force myself to do it as fast as I can. And as the years go by and you play the songs, live with the band, they start to improve. They become better. There's like, oh, I wish this wasn't the album. I wish I put this there. So to be honest, I think I never feel satisfied with my compositions when I finish them. I never feel they're done. And I just learned to accept that, like that's how it is. I do, there's of course a point that I'm like, okay, that's pretty much it. We're ready to go. But a lot of the way I write is I have like 90% of the song ready to go, and then I bring to rehearsal, and then I play with the musicians, and they can give me some guides on what they prefer with their instruments and some ideas. And then after maybe a couple of weeks, I try to update the song with certain new ideas that pop up. And that's pretty much it. Then I just say, okay, that's pretty much that's done. I'm gonna just keep doing new ones, and then when I have enough, we're gonna head to the studio.
I like that. So just to kind of get a feel for what being a professional working bass player is like in New York City, how many bands are you currently in?
So it really changes a lot, and especially now at the third of the year, 2023. Things been very crazy. Like some people just been leaving the city, or some people just moving around. But I would say my main ones, I have myself that I like to tour with my music, and then I play with this other singer called Rini. Is an amazing Indian player living in New Jersey, but we play with her all the time. We're going on tour with her actually now in February in India. So it's an amazing band. Sometimes I play with Simona, which you talk with. She has another bass player, but sometimes I play with her also. And then I play with another band, which is more like a soul band called John the Martyr. It's a pretty cool band. It's like a soul R&B band with a singer. It's very, very fun, like a party band. And then I play with some other groups that are not so stable, but they pop out from time to time. Like I play with a pop singer, and also with a Cantonese, I suppose that's the name, a Cantonese pop group that they bring very accomplished artists from Hong Kong and Asia in general to performing in the States, and I'm part of the band as the bass player. So I play a lot of those projects also. Those are very fun. And then after that, you have all the smaller projects of like, friends or like bands that are just starting and they need a bass player. Sometimes I just play for one gig and I'm like, I don't think I'm a fit. I don't think it will work. Or, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Just call me again if you need bass player again. So that's pretty much how it goes. It's super, super flexible, and not counting, all the other stuff that I do just to survive here, like wedding bands, events, things like that. So it's a very big number, I would say.
You mentioned that you're getting ready to head to India with Rini, and your friend Maxime is your rhythm section companion on that.
Yeah.
Is this your first time to India, or have you done the world tour thing before?
No, this is the first time in India for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, very excited. It's going to be very interesting.
When you come back, I want to hear what you think about it. I've been to India because in another life, I worked in corporate America, and I had to go there a lot for my old job. But it's not the same. I mean, you're going there for work, but you're going there to play music, which is a different level of soul satisfaction than working for a corporation, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to see a lot more cities in the country that I did, but I'm interested to know what you think of it when you.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm very looking forward. We're just finishing up all the paperwork, the visas. It's looking very good. And Rini, she's an amazing singer, amazing project. She was kind enough also to ask my project, which basically is going to be me, Maxime, and the other guitar player from Rini already. So it's just Rini minus Rini, my project almost, to open for her for one of the shows. So I'm very excited to also play my music for one of the cities.
That is a cool, exciting life opportunity that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. I'm not going to lie.
And I'm very happy for sure.
You're going to love the food, by the way.
Can't wait. Yeah, can't wait.
So let's go back to your childhood. I have a question about when you think back as far as you can to when you were very little. What's the first song you can remember hearing in your whole life?
Oh wow! I don't think I ever thought about that question before. Let me spend 30 seconds. Thinking when I was very young, one of the earliest memories I have was when I was 4 years old, and I was at school, and they had a Brazilian dessert. I don't know if you ever heard about it. It's called brigadeiro. It's like a truffle, like a chocolate truffle thing.
I have not.
It's very rich, I would say, and most of non-Brazilian people don't enjoy it because people say it's so sweet, but it's very delicious for me. Anyway, they gave me a plus size one. It's bigger than my head, and I tried to eat the whole thing in one bite and ended up feeling sick, being sick right after. But segueing from that time in that school, we used to do a lot of like a line up. I don't know how you call it in English, but you line up in like a line with one kid behind the other, and you just follow the teacher around school, because you have to move. And we would sing this song from this famous kids artist, a very famous, I would say international, but she's like a superstar in Brazil. She's called Xuxa, Xuxa. And it was like, dun, 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 dun. I don't remember the lyrics, but I remember the melody. Dun, 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 ba, da, 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 ba, 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 da, ba, da. And there's like a bridge section. I forgot how it goes, but that's probably my earliest song memory, because I remember lining up and like having to hold, you put your hands on the shoulder of the kid in front of you, and then so goes on back behind you, and just lining up, and like our steps have to match the rhythm, and then we would sing that. That's definitely my earliest like music memory.
That is a great story. That's why I like asking that question, because you get good stories out of it when people think.
Yeah.
While you were talking, I Googled brigadeiro, and one now.
It's delicious. It's one of my, and it's very easy to make. You just need condensed milk and chocolate powder. That's all it takes. Cocoa powder.
Really?
It's just it. You just have to cook it. You don't have to like burn it, because you have to be very low heat. But that's all it takes. It's very, very good.
I'm gonna have to try it with sprinkles. You like it with sprinkles?
Oh yeah, with sprinkles. That's the original way.
All right. So next weird question. What did your childhood smell like?
Very weird. Let me think. Smell like Brazil. My city, right? I'm from Santos, which is a city. I always tell people I'm from São Paulo, because everybody knows São Paulo, but I'm from Santos, which is a city close to São Paulo, and it's by the beach, and there's a lot of. I live like probably 15 minutes walk from 10 minutes walk from the beach, right? Like, because the whole city is like, it's almost an island, and we are by the beach, like very, very fast. So I just, when I think about going back to Brazil, my city is what comes in mind the first, and you can smell the ocean, you have that specific smell to it. And I also can smell like coconuts in general because we have so many coconuts in Brazil. In my city, at least, drink a lot of that. And yeah, I was trying to think about a smell from my house, from my where I grew up with, but I couldn't come up with anything. I don't think there was any specific smell because I am a very allergic person in general, and my parents always my parents always make sure there was no like strong scent products around the house because I sneeze like crazy. So I remember my house being very neutral when it comes to smell, and then going outside, you have the ocean smell.
So I looked on a map. I think I found your city. It's near Guarauja and Praia Grande. Is that the right?
Yeah, Guarujá and Praia Grande. Yeah, yes.
No, I don't speak Portuguese.
No, it's a hard word. Yeah, but yeah, it's like in between that. Like it's kind of like an island thing, and if anyone like watches soccer, is a big fan of soccer, they will know that Pelé, the greatest soccer player, died a couple of weeks ago. And he's from my city. Like there was a huge parade. He's the idol that created the whole soccer saga from my city. My city most famous export really is soccer. I would say a lot of great soccer players like Neymar Jr., which is another extremely famous soccer player. It's from my city.
Yep, plays for PSG.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that means you really did not enjoy the World Cup a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah.
Brazil did not perform all that well.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But you know what? 4 more years.
That's all right. I'm happy for Messi. I really like Messi, so I'm glad. I'm happy for him.
Wow, I thought that they were hated, evil. Right?
It is true. I do not like Argentina, but I do like Messi. Right. He's such a good player.
What do you have planned other than your touring and Snack? Do you have any other new projects on the way? Any other solo projects?
So currently, a lot of the stuff that I'm planning for this year, I'm waiting for a response from grants, right? I'm depending on grants also to get some of the stuff out because as music evolves, right, in this past like 5 years, it's the amount of video information you need to put out there just gets bigger and bigger. So I always try to make sure I do have good video with my music. So I'm just trying to wait for some grants to get stuff to see if things gonna work out. And those are like the bigger projects that I have in mind, like a new single. And actually, I'm just planning on doing like a stream of singles. Really, I'm not planning of any album, just pretty much single releases. But there's another thing, with Snack, of course, we plan to release our stuff and, bass and drums duo with some voice. We're planning all those in the long term for this year. But if I have some time, and something that doesn't take so much effort for me and something that I always wanted to do, I've been planning slowly to maybe do a solo bass album myself. Yeah. With just some stuff that I have in mind, because I do love effects. I love to use like crazy sound on the bass, just play with some crazy reverb, delay, and I don't know, I love all of that stuff. So I have some songs kind of like based on that, and a lot of free improvisation that I love to do.
It really is a shame that the modern music market wants us to make video for everything, because I agree it's not enough just to compose.
It's not,
anymore. Like you have, it's a whole lot of extra work that doesn't have to do with actually making music.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nowadays, the really, really successful, right? Like the guys in the top, like making like a good amount of money and like getting their fame and everything going on with them as a band leader are amazing business people, so it's so many hats to be wear at the same time when you want to have your project out there, especially coming from a non-mainstream place, right? All this stuff at the end is far away from the mainstream. So there's very little money to it, it's just very limited. So it's an amazing amount of work and business acumen, just having all that stuff. It's very important.
Yeah, but not fun. Like
not fun. I would completely agree.
I love going to the studio and I love writing and I love practicing and I love playing, but when I have to sit down and do any of that marketing or business stuff,
you
have to. But
it's really tough.
I'm with you on that. So before we go, where can I tell the listeners to go find you on the internet so that they can follow your adventures in India coming up?
Yes, so I'm quite active, I would say, on Instagram and most recently TikTok also. I've been doing both, but Instagram, I suppose, is the one much more mainstream one. So you can just type my name. And my name is pronounced Marcelo Maccagnan, but it's a very weird spelling, and I'm sticking with it because I think I can do it with the weird name. So I'll just spell it out. It's Maccagnan. There you go. That's the whole thing.
That's
The first
actually
part is not so hard. Yeah. No, it's Italian, this one.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever you see the G and the N, and then the person pronounces nya, nya, that's Italian, that one.
Oh, because
That's a good cue.
French too. I think about D'Artagnan from the Three Musketeers.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you have that. Yeah, but this one I believe is from Venice, if I'm not mistaken. That's where my family comes from. Yeah.
And your family never changed it to NH to match the Portuguese.
Never, exactly. That would be the way, but they never should. And if anyone is interested on the TikTok, by the way, just put it here very fast. It's the exact same thing, but you just put an underscore between my first and my last name. So it's Marcelo underscore Maccagnan.
Excellent. I will link to both of those in the show notes so that people can just click and go find you. And well, Marcelo, I want to say thank you very much. Muito obrigado for the time to talk to me. When you and Maxime release the Snack album, I would like to have you both on, and then we
for sure. No, we would love to. We're planning out the singles coming out, and the album's coming this year, hopefully.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much for this. Really appreciate it.
Muito obrigado, and thanks again to Marcelo for taking the time out of his busy schedule to talk to me. Right about now, I think he is probably on tour in India, so follow him on Instagram and see if you see pictures of his travels and delicious Indian food. Thank you, dear listeners, for being with me. So next week on the You Could Be My Aramis podcast, well, we're going to stay international, and we'll be talking to Maxime, who is Marcelo and Simona Smirnova's bandmate. Come back next week for those episodes. Have a lovely weekend.